This week we read about the terrible catastrophe of Sodom and Amorah. They totally destroyed within them. It was total rotten. The entire society of Sodom and Amorah was totally rotten. And Hashem said, "I'm going to turn over." He told Abraham, "I'm going to turn over the cities and I'm going to destroy it." But before he says, "Er denov ve'era." Let me go down and let me see. Haketzakotza, is it really that bad? Like the screams that I hear from Sodom, then I'm going to destroy it. No. What does it mean Hashem is going to come down? Where is he coming down from? He's on top, he's coming down. What's going on over here? And Lamai said this phrase, Hashem is coming down, we find in Parshas Noach by the Migdal Bavel. When they built the Migdal Bavel, so then it says over there also, Vayera Hashem went down to see what the people did. And then he said, okay, this is not going to be like this. We're going to split them up. They're not going to understand each other. What does it mean Hashem comes down? Where is he coming from? So, of course, we all know it's very, very the famous words that we say in davening by the Yud Gimel Midas, Vayera Hashem ba'onim ve'esyatziv yimashom, and Hashem came to Moshe Rabbeinu. He taught him the Yud Gimel Midas. He came down in the Anania Kavod. He appeared in the Anan to teach Moshe Rabbeinu the Yud Gimel Midas. But there it's clear. Hashem is hidden from us, and in order to teach Moshe Rabbeinu this important lesson, these important words of Yud Gimel Midas, he has to appear, and he has to kaviyachol, he has to come down and appear to Moshe Rabbeinu. There it's understood more or less. But here, when we're talking about coming down in order to mete out punishment, he's not coming to show himself to anybody. He's talking to Abraham and he's saying, I'm going to go down in order to see. In other words, kaviyachol. Difficult to say. Hashem says, I don't know really what's going on over there. I'm going to see if it's really that bad. What's going on? Netziv says an unbelievable chiddush. It's a chiddush in machshava. It's a chiddush in our emunah and in our philosophy of how we understand hashgacha pratis. We know that there's a midah called hashgacha pratis. Hashem knows what's going on. He controls every single action of a person, the smallest to the largest. There's nothing that happens without HaKadosh Baruch Hu's input. There's also something called hashgacha klalis. The Ramchal and Dasunis, he calls it Hanhogas Hamishpat, Hanhogas Yichud is, and there's Hanhogas Yichud, Hanhogas Hamishpat is the day-to-day, and there's Hanhogas Yichud. There's an overall plan. That's called Hashgacha Klolis. The other Bali Mashova called Hashgacha Klolis. There's a general plan, and somehow, somewhere, the general plan is going to happen. There's also Hashgacha Pratis. There's also Hanhogas Hamishpat, which parallel to the Hanhogas Yichud is also in play. And how they work together, it's a very, very difficult concept. But somehow there is Hashgacha Klaus and Hashgacha Pratis. Says the Netziv, based on the words of Radak and the words of the Gemara, as we'll see. It's a great chiddush that Hashgacha Pratis was not always in play. HaKadosh Baruch Hu started using Hashgacha Pratis after the first 2,000 years of the Bria. In other words, around the time of Avraham Avinu, around the time that we're learning these parashiyos, a little before, that's when Hashgacha Pratis started coming into play. But until then, there was no Hashgacha Pratis. And how does he say? It says, the Gemara says the world exists for 6,000 years. 2,000 years is going to be Tohu, emptiness. 2,000 years Torah, and 2,000 years the days of Mashiach. We have to understand what it means, the days of Mashiach, the days of Torah. It's obvious because around that time, that's when Avraham started learning Torah. Soon afterwards, there was Matan Torah, 2448. But what does it mean? The first 2,000 years was empty. So we understand empty of Torah. It says in Netziv deeper. Empty of Hashgacha Pratis. HaKadosh Baruch Hu Kaviyachol removed himself and did not involve himself in every detail of the Bria. But he says, for example, a father who has older children, so he's very involved in their upbringing and he's teaching them. He's involved day to day, minute by minute. But in the little kids, the 1-year-old, the 2-year-old, he's not going to spend the whole day watching what this little boy does. But let's say the little boy, the 2-year-old, picks up a rock and throws it at somebody's head. So obviously the father's going to get involved. What are you doing? You can't throw a rock at somebody's head. So when the child goes out of his bounds, completely out of bounds, then the father comes in and he has to deal with the situation. Er Dana, says in Netziv, is HaKadosh Baruch Hu coming into to involve himself in the out of bounds action of his way. Baruch Hu had to come in. Vayera Hashem had to come from his regular midah at that time of Hashgacha Klalis and employ Hashgacha Pratis and involve himself in the details of what they're doing. Same thing here in our parsha. I have to go down. I don't want to. I'm not really I really don't want to involve myself in every detail. He's telling Avraham. But Kaviyachol, this is what he says. Then it says a great chiddush that in this instant I'm going to employ Hashgacha Pratis and I'm going to come and see exactly what's going on and give them the punishment. Now, of course, after the 2,000 years, now it's Torah and Mashiach. During those years, of course, we have Hashgacha Pratis and HaKadosh Baruch Hu involves himself. He knows everything. He involves himself in every detail. But says in Netziv, it wasn't always like that. Good Shabbos.